800-951-0592. Joe and Jason on this Monday. Quick look here at the markets. The Dow is down, not a lot, down about 10 points. The S&P's down 18. The Nasdaq's down 85. Gold's down 20, 1990. But we're really watching the June contract. That is, I'll call it the TV contract. The reason why it's the TV contract, it is the most heavily traded contract, 2003. So they're testing that 2000. We talked about it on Friday, right? We want a new higher low. Wherever this settles in here, this will be the new higher low here. Silver, pretty unaffected. So this is why I say this is what I would consider pretty basic profit taking here in gold. If this had been something more significant, you would have seen silver down heavily as well. It is not. Silver down about 15 cents here, $24.95. This market recap brought to you by our good friends over there at Y Refi. We've been talking about these guys, and another thing, not correlated to the stock market. You can get a high fixed rate of return. You don't have to worry about what is my statement going to look like this month. What happens if CPI comes in hotter? What happens if CPI comes in colder? What if the Fed raises rates? What if they don't raise rates? What if they lower rates, right? Take all the guesswork out of it. Up to 10.25% return. Check it out. Now listen, you got to have 50,000 at least. You can use existing IRAs. That's some of you can even use a 401k, but check them out. Invest, yrefi.com. That's the word, invest, the letter Y, REFY.com, or call them at 888-YREFI24. And I know a lot of you probably think, they can't. How can they do that? How can they get 10.25% return? I mean, the Fed's funds rate's not even 5%. 10-year notes, not even at 3.4. 10-year notes like at 3.35 right now. How can they do that? Believe me, this is all in distressed student loans. I'll have them explain it to you. One of these days, we'll do another refresh on the half-empty cup, and we'll spend some time walking you through it. But call them. They'll explain it to you. And just like when I met with Lane, I met with their CEO when we started talking about forming this partnership. And that was the very first question I asked. And he goes, that's everyone's first question. And then he laid it out, and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Of course. What a great thing. It's for the greater good, too. So I highly recommend you check it out.
When I heard that and I was a process server, and you brought them on, and when I heard, it's when they're buying loans and they're taking care of student loans, and I was a process server. I'm the one that gave out all the collection notices that put these people in court and force them to cough up the money out of their bank accounts. I mean, the levies, all these things that drown the accounts out of these people, and then make life miserable. But I knew exactly what's going on. I've been to the courts. I know what happens with these loans, and so it makes complete sense to me. This thing makes complete sense. I totally understand the numbers of it. I probably wouldn't have, Joe, if I wasn't a processor, but I understand how the whole process.
Yeah,
is.
It was funny when after the meeting, I called Jason and I was telling him about it, and he's like, "Dude, that was that guy. I was the guy. I was the guy that was serving these papers for these collection agencies, and I know exactly how it works. So check it out. You'll be glad you did." Banks, the latest New York Fed survey, banks are making, and this is always the problem. When banks get scared, what is the first thing they want to do? They want to stop lending. And according to the latest New York Fed survey, that is exactly what has happened. Bank lending standards tightening up again. This is another one of those precursors for slowdown, right? If you're not lending, that means the economy is going to be slowing down out there. And then the consumer. We've talked a lot about the debt that consumers are under, and it didn't stop in February. Consumers continued to pile on debt, but here was the big thing out of it, Jason. The amount slowed in. Now, this was a February number. It only grew by $15 billion That was, as an example, January, it was like $20 billion. So Jason, a pretty significant decline in consumers' ability to borrow. Americans now own a record $4.82 trillion in debt. Credit card debt, which is at all-time record highs, set a new record. But once again, Jason, more and more of them are hitting the max limits on those credit cards. That pace also slowing.
Yeah, it's amazing, Joe. I mean, I don't know how, I guess I understand it, but I don't know how people get such high limits on credit card expense. With the way things are, it seems like they're pumping more credit cards into people's pockets to float this thing. And record high debts mean I'm sure they're still handing these things out to people that probably shouldn't be getting these. I mean, they don't have the adjustable rate mortgages out there like they did in 2008, but that's what a credit card is, Joe. It's a constant adjustable rate loan, and they are sure pumping the market full of this stuff.
Yeah, most credit cards now, I heard if you're not paying them off, you're paying over 20%. Over 20% interest if you're not paying off. And that's people with good credit. If your credit stinks, you're paying almost 30%. It's crazy. It's just ridiculous what's happening.
You should almost borrow the money, Joe. You should almost borrow the money from the guy in the big Cadillac, right? Off the street.
Get Tony Soprano. Yo, right? Tony. Hey, Tony. Can you help me out here? What's the points? Hey, I'm only going to charge you 15%, right? Hey, right? I mean, really, that's really what it is when you think about it. It's absolutely insanity, what the banks are allowed to get away with. And so funny. Remember they made a big deal during the financial crisis. They tried to shut down all the payday lenders. They tried to shut down the pawn shops and, they're predatory and look at what they're doing. I mean, how is this not predatory?
At least at a pawn shop, you give something of value to the pawn shop, and they give you money. There's something whereas when they loan you the money, the credit card company, there's nothing of value that they're offering you. They're giving you, fraudulent fiat currency.
Believe me, the last thing the bank wants to see you do is pay that thing off every month. They hate that, right? That's not what they want. Hey, when we get back, we're coming up on the break. We'll talk about the special, but Blackstone. We talked about what's been going on with redemptions in commercial real estate. Jason, we've got more sales in commercial real estate. I'll give you the numbers on the other side of the break. But again, what shoe is it that's going to be the one that tips over the commercial real estate market? Every week now, we seem to get closer and closer and closer as more of these 2 vacant office buildings get sold. We'll talk about that when we return. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason, and I've got a great deal. Wow, this is I'm excited here. So Brittany just passed the note along to me. We've got 50 $10 Liberty. So we're going back and forth. Whatever's cheaper. Is it 10's cheaper, 20's cheaper, 10's cheaper, 20's cheaper? Today it's 10 day. Here's the problem. I only got 50. That's not very many, but it's all about the price. Friday they were at $1,250. Right now, our regular retail price today on a $10 piece was $1,230. I think $1,230, maybe $1,250. I'm not sure. I don't quote. It doesn't matter.
I think Friday got $1,250.
$1,250. Thank you, Jason. $1,250. I've got 50 of them today at $1,200. That would be like gold fell $100, right? Gold's down not even half of that between Friday and today. Gold's down about $40, $35. So this is good value here. We got 50 $10 Liberties at $1,200 at 800-951-0592. We've been talking about what's next, the next crisis. We're worried about commercial real estate. We talked about how Blackstone last week, they have a $70 billion commercial real estate fund, and everybody wants out. Well, okay, everybody's an exaggeration. Anybody who's intelligent wants out, right? They have these limits set up. They only will let 5% of the fund redeem their money in a quarter. They also have a maximum of 2% in a month. Well, going back to last year, for now I want to say the 6th straight month in a row, redemption requests have been well over the 2% cap, and every month it gets worse. Right? So take last month. They wanted the consumers to the tune of $4.5 billion. They want so almost 5% of the fund. They only gave out 2%, $660 million. The problem is in March, Jason, everyone expects the redemption request to be even worse. But they gave out 2% in January, 2% in March. They only got 1% left to give out. But here's what they're doing. Like anything else, guess what happens? Well, we've got to start selling, right? Because, hey, we still got to give out, $600 million in January, $600 million in February, $300 million in March. And of course, they're like, well, I got to do the same thing in April and May and June, right? We're going to need the money. Well, guess what? Blackstone sold 2 13-story Class A office towers. They're called the Griffin Towers. They're located in Santa Ana, Orange County, California. Hey, they sold them for $82 million. Hey, okay. That's not too bad, is it? Well, the problem is Blackstone bought it for $129 million. That's just a 36% loss. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. It'll be fine. By the way, the building is almost 25% vacant. To give you an idea of how often these things happen, it's weird because I told you they never pay the buildings off, ever. That's just how commercial, these big guys, they just don't. They pay interest only. They're always on some kind of arm. The building peaked, these 2 towers. So there's 2 buildings, but they're both 13 stories tall. The towers peaked in 2007 when it was bought for $184 million. And then in 2014, 7 years later, right, Blackstone bought it for $129 million. Now, here's the funny part. In 2010, so think about 2010, right? We're still, right, in the hangover of the financial crisis. These 2 towers sold. So think about this. 2007, $184 million. 2010, $90 million it sold for. Today, Blackstone just sold them for $82 million. That's actually lower than what these buildings were. Really, Jason, kind of in the height. When Wall Street kind of bottomed out, like 2011, something like that. I mean, this is even worse than the financial crisis.
Yeah, those. I don't know how those numbers make sense. How does Blackstone survive things like this? Didn't something smaller than this destroy Silicon Valley Bank? Right.
Well, and again. Blackstone, they've got way bigger pockets than Silicon Valley. Oh, yeah. We just don't know. And like I said, it's probably not going to be Blackstone. But the fact that Blackstone's doing this, what's happening right now. All these short guys on Wall Street, they're digging through everybody's financial statements. They're looking for the guys that are vulnerable right now. And now all of a sudden We've got sale after sale after sale. Jason, this isn't 10%. This isn't 20%. By the way, Wolf Richter, I want to give credit here. Wolf Richter does great research. Wolf Street is where I'm getting all of this intel. According to Richter, he said Blackstone got lucky to get the $82 million. In other words, he said, dude, they got some sucker to overpay on this deal. My guess is there's probably some backdoor other things happening. But when we get back, Blackstone's been mailing the keys back on other properties as well. Jason and I will be back. Final segment coming up. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. And I don't know. We got two lines open. However many tens are left here at $1,200. That's $30 off per coin. Right now, the 20s are at $24.95. That'd be $95 less. So a new record spread, I guess, at least today, because I was able to get these tens on a deal. 800-951-0592. This is $50 less than it was on Friday. That would be the equivalent of gold being down $100. It's down 20. So take advantage here. 800-951-0592. So really quickly, more sales. These are all March sales. Houston, Parkway Properties, 960,000 square foot building in Uptown, sold for a 47% loss. The property was acquired in 2005 for $156 million, just sold for $83 million. The funny thing about Houston, they're saying that in Houston, what you think Houston's kind of, boom town? Vacancy rates in the 30s, almost 33% vacancy rates in Houston. The tower had recently been appraised for $219 million. Whoops! Sold for $82. Manhattan also in March. Charit Group, 617,000 square foot tower, 853rd Avenue, $266 million. The original guys bought it for $422 million in 2019. That is a 30% loss. They say that Charit refinanced the property for $320 million, and now says that the ultimate loss will become clearer when the building actually sells, which just means it's going to be even worse than that. And then they're talking about other buildings in New York selling, Jason, 40%, 47%. Those are the losses. Foreclosed sales, even worse. Foreclosed buildings are selling at an 82 to 88% loss. These are buildings that essentially, Jason, I would assume got to be torn down.
It makes me wonder. I'm just going to assume that Blackstone has other assets that are not property, as big as they are. And it makes me wonder if they're having trouble selling those assets, so they have to sell their discounted properties. Because normally if you're that down, you just kind of hold on to it, right, and wait for it to go back up, right? So it makes me think that their other assets are unsellable, so they have to do this.
Yeah, and again, Blackstone's got big pockets, right? Who knows that? They probably bought the building and then borrowed against it type of a thing. So at the end of the day, when they walked away, right, yeah, they've got a loss, but they're sticking it to the bondholders probably more than ever. And, of course, you know what? They're probably smart. They probably even hedged it so they made money on the fact that they lost money, because they're Blackstone. That's how these guys are.
Yes.
Telling you to buy our bonds, and then, oh, by the way, we're going to be shorting you behind your back, right?
Just watch Margin Call or The Big Short. You can get an education on that.
Right. $10 Liberties, man. Wow, what a deal today. $1,200 at 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup.